I'm a paid traffic guy telling you should never pay for traffic again in your entire life. So if have a podcast, if you don't have a podcast, have a YouTube channel. If you don't have a YouTube channel, have a Twitter profile. Go create a community, because a community is a well from which you get to draw upon forever. And the only way to create a community is to give. So get out there and give. And if you have nothing to give, you shouldn't be in business.
Today, we are so excited. We've got a really killer guest, Kasim Aslam. Name rhymes, first of all, Tim. It just rhymes with awesome, because he is. And I'll say this. I have met him, 5-6 years ago, and we've spoken on stages all over the world together. He has a crazy, amazing, popular podcast that most people know called Perpetual Traffic. He's a serial entrepreneur, agency owner, and, just as people are going to see in this episode, he is somebody who strings together thoughts really, really well. And so I'm really excited that he spent a little time with us, Tim.
Looking so forward to it. A Southeastern kid.
Yeah. He's a West Virginia kid who's out in Phoenix, Arizona in the desert. Yeah. And he built up one of the, if not the most successful Google ad agencies on the planet. And it's been fun to talk to him. He's also got a really cool man bun.
I feel like you're not far away from that.
If man buns were a receding hairline. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, without further ado, please welcome our awesome friend Kasim to the show. I mean, we jump right into stuff. No hands bar, gloves off. When you have somebody this amazing sitting in a seat across from us, Tim, in our little minds. No, you're smarter than me, but my little mind. And we get to talk about things that are on our minds from an actual expert who can answer it. I'm ready. And so let's fire off with what you want to talk about first, Tim, because I think this is probably going to touch the souls of everybody who's listening.
I think the very first thing is we're so pleased, to have our guest here today with an amazing upbringing that you guys will hear about, I hope.
There's going to be a snippet of that.
We were just talking about Google. I mean, Google is a monopoly, a monolith. And Google used to be very progressive in terms of the way they wanted to work with advertising agencies. And we're hearing more and more and more, working with the agencies that we do, that they're almost repressive. And we've seen a couple of communications over the course of the last number of weeks where it's downright intimidating, if not threatening. Mm. And I wanted to get your take, Kasim, on this, because I'm at my patient's end. So I would love your thoughts on where Google's going as it pertains to the end user, and more importantly, where is Google as it pertains to local ad agencies?
In a meritocratic ecosystem, you would have a Pareto distribution, which is, roughly speaking, 20% of the advertisers assuming 80% of the results. The problem with a meritocratic distribution is it benefits the advertisers. It doesn't benefit the advertising network. Google doesn't want a meritocratic ecosystem. What Google wants is to maximize the value of its inventory, as we all do, right? They're a business, they have inventory, and they want to get the most out of it over the longest period of time. In order to maximize the value of its inventory, they need us to comply. It's imperative. And Google is built, and y'all, with Performance Max, I don't know if you've been paying attention, Google rolled out something called Performance Max. It was in beta in 2019, rolled out in November of last year. It's the most amazing marketing mechanism I've ever seen in my entire life. It is insane. It's unbelievable. But if you flash forward 5 years and think about everything that Google is going to be able to see, Google's going to be able to see the entire competitive landscape. So all of the inventory available for any particular market, everybody who's willing to bid on that market, exactly what they're willing to pay, and most importantly, what they make. So what you're going to have is an immediate commoditization of the ecosystem to where every single advertiser is paying as much as they're possibly willing to pay and only making 1 penny more than they need to make in order to continue advertising. And in order to do this, Google needs you compliant, which is why they have the scores that they have, the scoring mechanisms inside of Google Ads that basically give you a grade. We're back to grade school. And they've got this army of, I call them drones, which can get confusing because they're actually real life human beings. But they have this army of humans that go out and they pound the pavement. They make phone calls and they bully people into mostly automated compliance, but into making a lot of decisions that aren't in your favor to your benefit. There's so that Google can maximize the value of their inventory. And it's only going to get worse. On some levels, I don't think Google's trying to steal from small business owners or anything, but they're definitely not here for you. And so anytime Google has education and training put out, you have to approach it with skepticism. When Google has the words recommended in brackets instead of the ad dashboard, that means you're about to be taken advantage of. My favorite example is this. When you are using geographic targeting inside of Google Ads and you choose the geo target that you want to go, let's say that you're, I don't know, you're an attorney and you're only licensed in the state of Texas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you say I'm targeting the state of Texas, Google has, and it's not even readily available. You have to click on this little teeny tiny blue link that expands the options. And there's 3 radio buttons. And one of them says people in or interested in, and in brackets, that's recommended. Well, here's the freaking problem. There's a whole bunch of people interested in Texas that aren't in Texas. And so you'd actually have to change that setting to be people in or regularly in. And here's what's freaking crazy. Performance Max that just rolled out doesn't have the option to change it. So you are now forever bidding on people in or interested in. And so if you're in, I don't know what, Beverly Hills, and somebody from Paris is getting your ads, it's because they happen to be traveling to Beverly Hills and Google has identified their interest. So Google doesn't have your best interest in heart. Do not listen to the Google reps, no matter what they say. We don't answer their calls anymore. And Tim, they get creative. I've had them tweet at me, message us, call our receptionist, email my EA. One of them really actually was kind of impressed. He found my booking link online and he booked a call. And it's just crazy how wrong they are about everything. This is the low level reps, by the way. We're involved with some of the higher level reps for high spend accounts. They're good folks, brilliant people. You know, they know what they're talking about. But those low level, just, pound the pavement folks, they can't be trusted.
It reminds me back in the day, I came up through the television and radio ranks, and advertising agencies would always tell us that, it was a portion or a part of the ad mix. And we used to say, you know what, we're just going to go direct to the client. And here we are now in the agency space where Google is that monopoly and they're going directly to the client because they want to maximize that. I mean, I wrote a thing in LinkedIn over the weekend and I said, my experience with Google over the 10 years has been, Tom Cruise, it's show me the money. And everything's related back to that. We've had some really good relationships like you have at the top end, but these people that threaten you on the quarter because you aren't complying with their grading system. I've had a lifelong mantra of I'm not going to lose doing it your way. And whether that's Google or somebody else, I'm not going to take that prescription. And we've had agencies reach out to us now, and it's got me really wound up because they're threatening them.
You know what's funny, dude, is they're not even Google employees. They've got at Google email addresses. There's a company here in town, actually. I think they're called T-Tech, TTEC. And they're white label, partners of Google that do Google's bidding. And it's all performance based. And so if they can capture compliance, they get paid out. So they're basically just hardcore commission salespeople.
Yeah, that's tough. Damn. What a way to open the show, huh? A little Google therapy. Well, Kasim, we're so excited to have you. We've literally been, I rave about you. I talk about you all the time. Not only are you fantastic on stage and you've got so much to say and you freely give all of your, it's so funny. I wrote this thing down yesterday. It was like, learn, teach, repeat, right? Like learn, teach, repeat, or learn, teach, do, repeat was a plus from somebody else. But I've always kind of put you in that place. It's like you are a ruthless implementer of knowledge. You also have many leather-bound books. Clearly, for those people who are only listening to audio, what you can't see is Kasim has a whole library of shit behind him to flex his muscle. Also, he used a word that is just something I have to go back and look up later, which is great. It's some ties. I got to look it up later. I don't know what language that was because you speak a few of those. So listen, we're just pumped to have you. All right. Everybody heard the accolades on the intro. I just want to know a little bit more about you. Like, I know you, but I want people to understand, like, here's the genesis. You didn't just wake up yesterday successful. Like, this is a lifelong journey of kind of the dig of it, the slog of getting it to where you are now. Plus, all that knowledge you just dropped about Google doesn't just come like, you weren't born and it's like a Google expert. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a theory that I'd love for y'all to test since you're talking to agency owners. And it's every marketer is just a failed entrepreneur. and I believe this to be true. I think that every marketer is somebody who tried a real business, let's say, and failed miserably at that, but along the way picked up this skill set where you're like, well, I guess I can just go do this for other people who do it better than I do. And I had a software development house. I wanted to be an actor. That's my sad, pathetic little passion. And I wanted something I could do from anywhere. And so I started building software so I could just be on set. And I was horrible at acting, as I'm sure you'd probably guess. But the software gig ended up working out pretty well for me. And I was my biggest client was First National Bank. They're the largest bank failure in U.S. history. They're the bank that brought down Lehman Brothers. They were the very first domino to tip in the '08 financial collapse. And I was in the bank on Bank Failure Friday when the FDIC pulled up in their big black SUVs and kicked down doors. And it was unbelievable to see. It was a really interesting thing to be privy to. And it was also the start of my first and hopefully last catastrophic financial destruction. I lost everything. I lost and the thing about it, it was such a blessing because I was making way more money than a kid should make. I was 20 years old. I was 22 when it all went down, I think. But, I had the big house on the hill and the idiot's car, and I had like $300 shirts, and I was always picking up the child. I was very, 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 I was raised by a blind single mother on Social Security in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I was very, very, very insecure about money always. And when I finally got a little bit of it, I didn't know what it was. For me, it was this thing that I could use to prop up my self-esteem. And you find out very quickly, like, oh, I don't own that house. The bank owns that house. And they reminded me of that as soon as I stopped paying for it. So lost my house, lost my car. I ended up in an apartment building that I could only move into because they were offering 3 months free if you sign an 18-month lease. I'm going to Costco on a expired Costco card, trolling Costco on the weekends for free trouts. That's how I was eating. Like, it was bad, y'all. I was so close. I was on the precipice of, flying a sign out on the side of the road. Just no idea what I was going to do. And I started trolling Craigslist just for random, I was good at computer stuff. So I'd troll for I'd fix a website.
I didn't know where that was going to go,
Right.
Well, I was in a dark place and I was trolling Craigslist.
They took that category out of Craigslist.
That's right. So I'm freelancing on Craigslist. We won't say what. No. I start trolling Craigslist for web work, which, if for someone who's building software, it felt like the cook washing the dishes. But I kept getting this question, like, well, how do I get my website found? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, good luck. And I'm depressed. I'm sitting in a bathtub of gasoline lighting matches every night. Like, I'm not in a good place. And so I'm not seeing the opportunity right away, but slowly but surely it sort of dawned on me. And that was the genesis of my marketing agency. And it was the best thing that ever could have happened. Ever, because I was a douchebag as a kid. Mm-hmm. And it taught me a level of humility that I really desperately needed. And it put me in a position of growing from the ground up from a foundation that was real. I have no debt in life, and I never will again. And I know that there's something about that that's actually mildly quixotic, because there's a bunch of people that have put together, $1 billion organizations off of debt. I just can't do it. I have entrepreneurial PTSD. My house is paid off. My cars are paid off. I'll never go. And I tell that to other people that are embarking on the entrepreneurial journey. The thing about the way that I've structured my life as an agency owner is I can make decisions other agency owners can't make. I can hire people they can't afford to hire because they take longer to monetize. I can fire people they can't afford to fire. I can choose not to take a client if I don't want to. And it's all because of this obsessive focus on solvency. And I was given that by a meteor that struck my financial life and then, burned me to the ground. So how was that for a Genesis story? Y'all, was that too
That's fantastic. That's probably one of the better ones. Yeah.
Oh, easily one of the better ones. Don't you find out? Don't you just feel though that the failures in your life, the growth that sprouted from those failures were so massive as opposed to your victories?
Oh, you learn nothing from winning. You learn nothing. Yeah. You only learn when you lose.
It's good. I don't wish some of my losses on people, but I do think I think I personally do not learn in success. I can't speak for everybody because there's some winners out there who keep freaking winning forever and to the sunset. But that's such a marginal, very small. You're not going to meet a lot of people who are successful now or are. I think it's funny. Solvency is like an interesting word because it's not necessarily the first thing you hear an entrepreneur or business owner be like, "What's your goal?"
100%. Yep.
So that one stuck out to me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I guess the meteorite had to hit. But okay, so listen, you got this, you founded the company, you've been working this way. You're probably you're getting people's websites found early in the days, like learning.
I was an SEO agency, which most marketers started SEO, and then that was back when it was easy. You know,
Right.
you build a couple links, you stuff some keywords, and you're like, bam, first page, pay me my money.
Right.
And then SEO got hard. My agency is called Solutions 8 because I'm an idiot. And y'all, this is a recurring theme. Like, I am not a smart person the first time. I only get smart after a couple of times. And so Solutions 8 had 8 core service offerings. We were doing video and SEO and content and web and software and people and like all the things. And I thought I could be good at everything, which was just, it was such a lie to myself, not to others. And what's funny is I had this goal. I had a financial goal that I was like, man, when I get here, I can be happy. Like, this will be the thing that satiates my appetite and feeds my family, and I'll be good. And I remember hitting it. Marcus, you know what's funny, man, is I was actually at TNC the very
Which one?
first time when I signed up as the digital marketer certified partner, because I
Ah,
was making more money than I had been making, and I was so freaking depressed because I had this agency where I was basically just selling my soul. It was like, if you came in, I was like, all right, what do you want? And then you would tell me, and I'm like, all right, I'll do that for money. And so it was like digital prostitution in a way, where you got to tell me what it was that we were doing. And then so I had, I don't know what, 20 some odd clients, and I owed each of them something different. It wasn't scalable. It all required me. So even though I had employees, like, I was the strategy, the driver. And I signed up as a digital marketer certified partner at Traffic and Conversion 2016, and I paid him
ooh.
10 grand. Am I allowed to say that? Are we
Yeah,
supposed
you
to?
could. Yeah,
Yeah,
hey, there's no secrets here. I
yeah.
put 5 in my pocket, 5 for Ryan.
I
Yeah,
figured that's what it was. I was like, this dude's definitely taking me for a ride. So yeah,
I'm
I threw
skimming.
down 10K, which it was the most I'd ever spent on anything, education based ever. Cause I always thought I could DIY, but I knew, I was like, well, what the hell? I got to where I was supposed to go, and this is horrible. This is the worst place that I can possibly be. And and I'm not pitching the partner program. But go join something. Go put yourself,
This.
always be the dumbest person in the room. Go join a
Mhm.
mastermind, a course, a something, because I got so much out of it, y'all. I felt like I was a starving human that was led to the buffet, and there was nothing but a bunch of people, Marcus, you included, a bunch of people that were there willing to help. Now, they only help if you take action. So you can't just sit there and be like, "I'm not making any money." Whatever. But they had, and this will sound like I'm not. It's hyperbolic. They had all the answers for me. They had all the answers that I needed. I'm like, here are the problems that I'm having, and then 3 other people. Frank Cowell's a really good example, the CEO of
Mhm.
Digitopia now. Frank would be like, "Oh, dude, you got to niche down," and I'm like, I don't know why I'd never really paid attention to that before, but you're absolutely right. And so I got this really good advice. I ended up bringing on a phenomenal business partner. He's really the brains of the organization, and he's the one that identified. He's like, dude, everybody who's successful with this is successful with Google Ads first. And it makes
Mhm.
sense. It's like, oh, I'm going to take my client, I'm going to throw him in the Coliseum with all their competitors, and I'm going to see if he comes out alive. And if he does, then we can do all these other things. So we decided to run Google before we ran anything.
Yeah.
And over time, it just made sense. We got so good at it. We're like, well, we'll just do Google. And, we cut everything else off, which was the scariest thing I've ever done, because I kept looking at the opportunity loss. I was like, oh, but there's so much money in web and there's so much money in SEO. But every time I cut off a service, I made more. We've got, and I'm trying to temper myself here, but I'll go ahead and say it. We have 40% margins. Agencies don't get 40% margins, and it's
Not
because
on not on paid
we've
media.
niched down
Yeah.
in a way that other people aren't willing to niche down. And I've seen this only from my niche friendly agencies. Choose a
Mm.
niche, go after it
Mhm.
hard, and then own it. That's the other piece. Is if you niche down, you have to niche down into excellence. You have to be the best. We're the number one ranked Google Ads agency on the planet. Google us right now from anywhere in the world. Google Ads agency. I outrank Google. And it's because we just said we're going to be the best of the best of the best of the best. But you can do that when you pick a niche. You can't
Mm.
do that when you're like, oh, I'm a marketing agency and I'm the best. Really? Are you? For who? In what context?
So let's talk about where we are now. So that was a great Genesis story, by the way. Never heard anybody talk about digital prostitution better than you. But I do think that it's worth kind of like, okay, we're here now. Like, where's here? What's the state of current? Like, I'm an agency owner, and this is what we're dealing with. What's the pulse there on that?
It's an interesting place to be. I've got 70 employees, 200 clients, $54 million in ad spend under observation or management. Um, and because we're so niched, and this is where we come full circle, Marcus. Um, I don't have access to the client base that I would want access to at this point in my evolution,
Hmm.
because after a certain point for agencies, the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, Fortune 5000, let's say, they want to write one check to one entity, and that entity does everything. They're going to do their content and their SEO and their paid and their whatever. And now I am the white label fulfillment partner for quite a few of those. A lot of those ivory tower agencies with the nice big conference rooms and the $12 croissants, they're just sending their work to me. But I'm never going to get in the room that they're going to get into unless there's a strong referral. I might have 5 of those clients, maybe, and they all came on the heels of referrals, but I don't have access to them otherwise. And so it's funny because I could just continue to grow the way that I'm growing and ignore that client base, which is what we're doing. But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to be on the positive end of a roll up where, like Mountain Gate did this with Tenuity. Mountain Gate Capital came in and they took a Google Ads agency and a Facebook agency and a CRO agency and a content agency, and they sewed them all up. And what I like about that is one entity trying to be the best at everything is tough. But if you go take the best at everything and then add them together, that really is a 1 + 1 = 5. And Tenuity has a $600 million valuation right now. They're, as far as I'm concerned, the gold standard. And that was, I think, their $600 million valuation, by the way, I think that was 2019. So, they're $1 billion agency.
I've never heard that goal. Like, you know what? We should stitch our shit together and roll it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do get the idea of it, but that's also somebody who specifically has an exit strategy in mind. And I feel like there are a lot of agencies that don't. Like, agency owners might just want to ride it out in the sunset or give it, make it kind of this generational thing too, passing it down.
Dude, I don't think agencies are generational endeavors. I think an e-commerce store can be. The problem with an agency is it's a multivariant problem. Actually, you have multiple service offerings, even if you're niche, right? Like a Google Ads agency isn't just Google Ads; it's display and video and search. Even if you're niche, you have multiple service offerings that are changing daily. Right. You are going to be usurped. You are going to be unseated. I'm the #1 Google Ads agency today, but that's not going to be true on a long enough timeline. I'm guaranteed failure. So every other business gets to evolve organically. We have to evolve every day. I wake up and something's different. Something's changed. We've all seen the graybeard agency. No offense to anybody with gray in their beard. I have some myself. But we've seen the graybeard agency, to just use the pejorative, that rested on their laurels. Yeah. And they're still making money because they've got relationships, but they're not growing and they're not pushing the envelope. And I don't think that entity lasts long. How do they survive Web3? How do they survive the move into like augmented reality? How do they survive a change in context, which would destroy Google, by the way? That's why Facebook is investing so heavily in Oculus. So no, I think that growth needs to be the emphasis for agencies specifically. And then as an agency owner, dude, I go buy real estate because it is the most boring, most stable form of asset protection you can possibly. I make my money in a risky way. I invest my money in a very stable way. I buy little single family homes in Podunk, mid-America. I'm in Fargo, North Dakota, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, because that's the economy never changes. So don't try to stabilize the nuclear reactor.
Well, we're going to ask this last thing. Yeah. I just want to know this because we always end the show on this kind of similar thing. It's like, hey, we want what the one big actionable thing that our guests can come. It's like, I'm going to slam my laptop, go turn off my iPod, turn off, Spotify, and I'm going to go do something. So what's the charge? What's the Jerry Springer final thought from Kasim on what these folks should be out there doing?
I would create a community. I think what you're doing right now, I think I'm a paid traffic guy telling you should never pay for traffic again in your entire life. So if have a podcast, if you don't have a podcast, have a YouTube channel. If you don't have a YouTube channel, have a Twitter profile. Go create a community, because a community is a well from which you get to draw upon forever. And the only way to create a community is to give. So get out there and give. And if you have nothing to give, you shouldn't be in business. And I don't think you shouldn't be in business, by the way. I think you should. But just get over yourself and decide, like, here are the things that I can give. And invest in one. You don't need to be on all those things that I just said. Go pick one. Pick the one that feels the easiest, that feels fun. And if you build a community, bet money 2 years from now, you're one of the biggest voices in your space, because so few people will do this.
The things that you started off saying, Kasim, I'm like, okay, this is all in my head, but it's being said by a much smarter and much better looking version of myself.
For our audio listeners out there, Kasim is a good looking guy.
A good looking guy. Come on, check the video.
You haven't put your hair down yet.
It's early, Marcus. I need a margarita.
And by the way, you can always catch our guest here on 2 very popular shows. One is called Perpetual Traffic, which is 1 million downloads a month still, and rocking and rolling with you and your
Ralph
counterpart
Burns. Yeah,
Ralph
we do. We're in the
Burns.
top 0.5% of all podcasts worldwide right now.
Which
Hashtag
is
no big deal.
such a flex. And then we'll have to get Ralph on here too. This will be a lot of fun to have him on the show. And then the other show that you do with your other business partner, John, what's that one called?
It's the Google Ads podcast. It's really just our YouTube content stripped and repurposed. So it's our best performing YouTube videos, and then we turn it into a podcast.
Yeah, but it's great. It's tens of thousands, if not more than that, views. It's awesome. I've actually watched them, and yeah, just go over there. So here's what you're going to find it, listener. You're going to go to agency-talk.com. You're going to go over. You're going to follow this guy. He's going to be your North Star for a while. He will put you out into an arena with all your competitors and have you die. Okay, he's going to be your digital prostitute. All right, guys, that's what you need to take away from this call, dude. We're so excited. Thank you so much for making time. I know how busy you are out there in the desert, and we're just so happy that you made some time for us.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you both.
Everybody's a kid to me now, but what a nice kid, and he's smarter than hell, and he's built a terrific agency, and he's doing things the right way.
All right. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you go over to agency-talk.com. Check out the repository of content, all these great people, just like Kasim, who are sharing and who Tim and I have had the pleasure of interviewing. Hey, we've got some incredible interviews coming up, and we want you to follow along. You can hit the download button there. You can hit the subscribe button there. You can reach out and follow Tim and I on the LinkedIns, the interwebs, and tell us what you think. But we just want you to join the conversation, get the most out of it, and find something actionable to scale your agency. And Tim, you don't have a sweater vest on today, which I'm highly disappointed in, but it's summertime in New Jersey, and
it is.
We're just going to have to imagine.
I thought it would be inauthentic.
You did. Well, you look good still. All right. You look great. All right. Thanks for listening to Agency Talk. We'll see you next time.